first step to doing a drill press operation, you have to lay out the holes on your part. For this part here, we're going to put a hole centered on the width of the part. We're going to go centered on there and 1 inch in from the end. So before you do any layout work, you want to make sure your part doesn't have any burrs on it, no sharp edges, and that there's no oils on the surfaces. Today I chose to do my layout on a granite table. A granite table is a really precise table that has a lot of stable thermal characteristics. So this you'll generally see in an inspection room in a machine shop. We use it for our precision inspection and our layout. Now layout means describe a line, and you're going to basically make crosshairs of where that hole is going to be. So the first part of this is usually to put some kind of a coloring or a stain on there. And I have some black layout dye. Now this black dye is very similar to fingernail polish. When you put it on there, it stains the surface temporarily. The thinner you can put that on, the better. And it does take some time for it to dry. So while that's drying, let's talk about this device here. This is a digital height gauge. Now this digital height gauge, the surface of it is on the granite table, and so if we move it anywhere around on this table, it'll always remain the same. The top button on here is the power on button. So when you turn it on, it comes up as 0. It'll be 0 wherever you turn it on. So make sure it is clean on the table and underneath the tip of this tool. You can then lower it all the way down to the table and re-zero it. To re-zero, just hold in the power button on this one. So let's measure our part. This you can use for measuring as well. So as I raise this up, I can lower it down on top of my part. And it tells me that my part is 1.7 inches wide. So in order to find the midpoint of that, I got to take 1.7 and divide it by 2. So that would be 850 thousandths. So I'm going to 0.850. Once you're at 0.850 now, the tip of this tool is also a scriber. I can take my piece now with my layout die on there and actually scribe my part. So you can see that makes a nice clean scribe line. So that line is centered between the top and the bottom of the part. And now I have to come 1 inch in from the end. So I'll stand it up with this end down on the table now, and I'll reset this to 1 inch. So 1.00 is what I'm looking for. And I will now scribe that line. So right where those two lines intersect, that is where my hole location is going to be. So the next step now is to move over to a wooden bench and actually punch mark that intersection. You don't want to use the hammer and punch on this table because it is granite, and you will damage the table if you do any kind of hammering on this table. So let's go over to our wooden workbench. So on our workbench here now, I have a center punch and a hammer. What I'm going to want to do is take the center punch and put it right at the intersection of those holes. Take your hammer and just lightly tap it. Then inspect your work. Make sure that your punch mark is right in the center of those holes. If not, now is the time to move it. If the punch mark is where you like it, then just let's punch it a little bit deeper. So line back up on your punch mark and now hit it with some pretty good force. Now that punch mark is where we're going to line up the drill press. That is the center of our hole. So let's go back to the drill press now and we'll drill the hole.